218 days after the journey began, Decision Day, presented by AT&T, is upon us. Carlos Vela and LAFC have the supporter shield, but they're looking to go down in MLS history. The Rapids, once left for dead but now hoping for a playoff miracle of their own, are the opponents today at Banc of California Stadium. Here comes Carlos Vela and the family. Zlatan and the Galaxy, they don't need a miracle, but a home game in the first round of the Audi MLS Cup playoffs would be nice. So would a golden boot for the big man. 3 points and 3 goals in Houston against the Dynamo, and they could get both. The Earthquakes, meanwhile, are on, well, more uneven ground, let's say. San Jose will play for their postseason live today, and Portland, as rumors swirl around the future of head coach Mateus Almeida. And there's Pity Martinez, but he's not the main Martinez. We know that. That's Joseph Martinez, and word is Joseph is moving all right after the scary-looking injury that shook up the Five Stripes. Frank DeBoer says his number 9 will decide whether he starts today against the Revs, a potential playoff preview. And how's this for an FC Dallas playoff scenario? Win against Sporting KC and they're in. We have reporters across North America for Decision Day, presented by AT&T. And let's kick off our coverage with an AT&T call to the field with Susanna Collins right there in Frisco.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Well, with only 2 spots left in the Western Conference, everything is on the line today for FC Dallas. And for them, their mission is simple: win, and they are in. If FC Dallas are only able to get a draw, they're going to need a little help from Portland and LAFC. So right now, let's send it out to Max Brados at Banc of California Stadium.
Thanks, Susanna. LAFC has already locked up the best record in Major League Soccer. Today, their magic number, though, is 1. Unless, of course, there is some Decision Day magic. Now let's go to Portland. That's where John Champion and Taylor Twellman are.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the likely epicenter of this Decision Day. Providence Park, Portland against San Jose. So much on the line, and effectively, Taylor, a playoff for a playoff.
Yeah, it's really the only game this weekend that both teams need a result.
We are looking forward to this and some as we send you back to New York City at MLS studio headquarters.
Happy Sunday, folks. Happy Decision Day presented by AT&T. Welcome to Match Day Central. Big day today. We got 2 playoff places up for grabs in the Western Conference, a mad scramble for seeding, and, of course, some history at stake. I'm Andrew Wiebe. You know some of these faces: Caitlin Carr, Charlie Davies, Matt Doyle hanging out the board for us. But this smiling man, oh so handsome, is Jimmy Conrad, our esteemed guest. And Jimmy, this is the highlight of your year, right?
Yeah, no question. Today? This is my favorite day of the year. Everything is happening all at once, and it's going to determine who gets into the playoffs and who doesn't. Who gets into the big dance. So I'm very excited.
So much on the line today. And Taylor Twellman got us started with something pretty spicy there, and it's on the Portland Timbers. He's saying that this could be the biggest collapse in league history. Well, we shall see, Kaylin. I know you're watching that game awfully close.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the big match of the weekend. And, you know, those last 2 spots in the West, that's really what's going to be decided today. Portland at home versus San Jose team that's lost their last 5. You'd think that would be a no-brainer, but the way Portland have played at home, they can't take anything for granted. Then you go over to Dallas. They play at home against the Sporting side with no Ilie Sanchez and no Roger Espinoza. You think, but that Peter Vermees squad is going to fight to the end. So it's going to be down to the wire.
You see the odds here. Not much going for the Rapids, but who knows, maybe a miracle. The odds for LAFC, Jimmy, they have the shield. They're just worried about now history.
Yeah, they're definitely in it to make history. I'm sure Bob Bradley always has his guys ready to go and having that focus. And I want to give a shout out to Bob Bradley because I think he's done a very good job with this team. He proved it way back when with the Chicago Fire back in '98 when they won the Open Cup and MLS Cup in the first year of their existence. So he knows how to put teams together, and I think he's done an excellent job of getting everybody on the same page. So I don't see there being a drop-off in any way. And I think they want to go into the playoffs with some momentum, with some confidence, and not just backing into it.
And then you look at Carlos Vela. I mean, it's all about him breaking the record, the team breaking the all-time best regular season record. But Carlos Vela, everyone was scared coming on the hamstring injury, coming off it. You know, you thought, is he going to lose his form? Well, sat out 2 games, and now he's scored in 4 consecutive games. I'm pretty sure now he's all in, he's healthy. They're going to try and make sure that not only does he break the record, the team break the record, but then they have a couple weeks to all recover, get ready for a grueling postseason.
What about playoff seeding out in the East? Matt, what are you thinking on that side?
Yeah, I mean, playoff seeding in the East, there's a couple of things going on. Up at this 2-3, Philly and Atlanta head-to-head, well, not head-to-head today, but Philly hosting NYCFC, Atlanta hosting New England. Whichever team gets a better result there is going to have that second seed, which is a reward. And then 4, 5, 6, those teams all jockeying to get at least one home playoff game. And then in the Western Conference, like, it's kind of gone under the radar a lip. Anybody from 2 to 5 can end up having a home game to start or could end up on the road. You guys talked a bunch about 6 and 7. We know that's where the drama is, but keep an eye on this as well.
So much to play for today on Decision Day. We've got a big show coming up for you. It's not just checking into the markets. It's not just the interviews, the analysis. It is the 2019 Expansion Priority Draft featuring Nashville SC and Inter Miami Club de Football. We will find out who gets the top pick in the Expansion Draft, the Super Draft, and the allocation order in just a little bit. Representatives from both clubs will be here in the AT&T MLS studios. We've got reports from around the league. The frequent flyer miles are being racked up right now by all of our reporters. We're also going to break down Carlos Vela and Zlatan, what they've done this season, and reflect a little bit on Run DMB's career. DeMarcus Beasley perhaps playing his final game. I can hope, right? I can hope that it's not the final game. But for now, let's look at some past Decision Day moments. 2015, Red Bulls is all about the Shield on this day.
Yeah, and who else but Bradley Wright Phillips, always the reliable one. And Sasha Kleshtin, they won this on the road in Chicago, got to celebrate with their fans, their second Supporters Shield in club history.
Speaking of the Red Bulls, 2016, BWP trying to get that golden boot.
Scores his 24th goal of the season to wrap up the golden boot on the last day of the season. It was fantastic. And BWP, legendary, one of the all-time greats.
One of the best teams in MLS history, too, that Red Bulls squad. 2017, San Jose, this was pain for Dallas, and it was pleasure for San Jose, man.
It was definitely painful for FC Dallas. I know that Oscar Pareja was shedding a tear after this was all done on Decision Day in 2017 because Chris Wondolowski scored in the 93rd minute against Minnesota United, which sent everybody into delirium at Avaya Stadium, and that got the Quakes into the playoffs. Probably my favorite moment so far in Decision Day history.
Wando, Mateus Almeida hoping for more of that on this day. They need a result. Currently below the playoff line. 2018, LA Galaxy, Zlatan, they're going to the playoffs, right? Yeah?
Not so fast against the Dynamo. That's right. Yeah, I mean, Dynamo on the last day of the season when Taylor talks about collapses in history, I mean, this is on a single day on Decision Day presented by AT&T. This has to go down as one of the biggest.
Decision Day, presented by AT&T. Those are the faces that you might see, certainly some smiles as well. Let's take a look around the league. All 12 games going on at once to 4 p.m. Eastern. You see San Jose and Portland on ESPN. You can watch the rest on ESPN+. You can also watch the Whip Around Show on ESPN+. Charlie, what are you looking for on this page?
Give me all of LAFC Colorado. That's it. They want to break the record, and I want to see Carlos Vela break the record. It's a massive game, and I can't wait to see the outcome.
Yeah, Portland, San Jose is the one for me. Always mayhem. You're going to have the crowd there in Portland. Almeida, rumors around his future. Is this Valeri's last game in Portland? There's just so many storylines in this one. I've got to be watching this match.
That's the Western Conference. How about on the East, Jimmy?
I mean, all those Western ones were pretty tasty, but on the East, I'm going to go with Atlanta versus New England. Atlanta are the reigning MLS Cup champions. They have a lot of experience in big games. They've proven it already this season with the Open Cup and the Campeones Cup. Is Joseph Martinez, is he going to start? Looks like he should have been on crutches after that injury for like at least 2 months, but he might be in the lineup in some capacity or coming off as a sub. So I'm excited to see how he does. But on the flip side, the New England Revolution, they've had a revolution under Bruce Arena. They've only lost 2 games since May. They're a hot team and could be one to be looking out for heading into the playoffs.
Looking at DC myself, no Wayne Rooney. If they win, they get that home game. But look, we've taken you around the league already. We've been to Frisco, Los Angeles, and Portland. Let's hit the ground across MLS once again with an AT&T call to the field with my partner in soccer, Bobby Warshaw, who's at Talon Energy Stadium in Chester.
Thanks, Andrew. This game on Decision Day presented by AT&T could have been a chance for the Union to steal the top spot in the East, but it's not. And it's not because they lost last week to 10th place Columbus. The Union have had a 1 and out in the playoffs, came after they lost the last regular season game of the year. Let's see if that changes today. For news coming out of Atlanta, let's head down to David Goss.
Thanks, Bobby. A fascinating one here in Atlanta. We could be looking at a 2019 Audi MLS Cup playoff preview between Atlanta United and the New England Revolution. We've been told both these sides are going to put out their after his ankle and knee injury. He returned to training on Wednesday. He will be available to Frank de Boer here today. Now up to Poppy Miller in Montreal.
Thanks, David. It is pretty picture perfect here north of the border at Stade Saputo, and although the sun may have set on Montreal's MLS season, they come in flying high after winning the Canadian Championship for the first time.
The moment that we've all been waiting for.
This is something that has been a dream for many, many years.
Welcome, Miami! This is a great city. We work together. People love living here. They love working here. I'm here today to announce that Nashville will be Major League Soccer's 24th team.
Charlie, you have the honors. Flip that coin. Let's see who has the first pick in the expansion priority draft. And it's up. And the reveal, Inter Miami take the #1 pick in the 2019 MLS Expansion Draft. It's time to turn the MLS calendar from 2019 to 2020. Today, all eyes are on Nashville SC and Inter Miami as they pluck 5 players apiece from around Major League Soccer in the 2019 Expansion Draft. They're partying in the Music City. Live music and drinks are flowing at Old Red. And Miami, that's not a bad place to land either. Inter fans are waiting to see who their club will add to a roster that still has 2 DP slots open and no head coach just yet. There you see the draft rooms. Paul McDonough, the sporting director for Inter Miami. Mike Jacobs, his counterpart with Nashville SC. Welcome now to the AT&T MLS studios in Midtown Manhattan. I'm your host for today's expansion draft, Andrew Wiebe. With me, 2 guys that you know well, Kalen Carr and Matt Doyle. Kalen, let's start with you. What's the significance of today? What's it all mean?
Well, it's a sad day for me, Andrew, just because this league gets more and more unrecognizable. But for the league, it's a huge positive part. Just to see the impact of expansion on MLS overall has been tremendous. And it's a turning of the page from what we saw in Seattle to now looking ahead. And for Nashville and Miami, it's an exciting time for their fan base to get a first look at the beginnings of building of this roster as they look towards next year.
That's macro. What about micro, Doyle?
Yeah, I mean, there are really 2 different ways to approach the expansion draft. You could go for high upside young players, which we saw LAFC do a couple of years ago, getting Latif Blessing and Tyler Miller. Or you can go for veteran glue guys, which teams have done pretty consistently throughout the years. There are a lot of high upside young players in this one, guys like Thomas Konechny from Portland, Christian Higuita from Orlando City, and the one I have my eye on is Jesus Medina, the young DP, Paraguayan international winger from NYCFC.
We shall see what happens. Jacobs and McDonough on the clock very, very shortly. Here are your rules. 5 rounds, 5 selections from each team from the available player pool. Clubs who had players who must be protected could protect up to 12. That was 1 more than in previous years. 3 minutes per pick. No trades during the draft. Afterwards, it is open season. And once a player is selected from a given club, no other players can be selected from those clubs. Now, there are some exempt teams here. Clubs that had players selected by FC Cincinnati in the 2018 expansion draft. FC Dallas, DC United, the Houston Dynamo, New York Red Bulls, and Vancouver Whitecaps. They're sitting back and just watching today. They don't have to worry about much. Now, there are some big names available here. Kalen, here are some of them. Who stands out?
Well, there's a lot, especially on the left-hand side. Lee Wynn, a player that has really been one of the better attacking players at certain points, then had to shift systems to LAFC. Jesus Medina, a ton of talent. And then you look over on the other side, Ben Sweat is a name that intrigues me as well. When you see a player with U.S. national team caps in the last couple of years, especially in a position of need at outside back in this league, that's one that jumps off the page.
I mean, there are a lot of guys up there with international caps at one level. I mean, that left side is all guys who are DPs or have been recently. There's a lot of talent for these, including MLS Cup MVP Victor Rodriguez. Could win a match for you.
Some max salary players as well as some supplemental guys and depth too. We'll be bouncing back and forth between Nashville and Miami all afternoon to get the picks. But let's go now to Nashville. It's happy hour at Old Red, and Susanna Collins is on hand to give us a little taste of the atmosphere in the Music City.
Well, Andrew, this is my 4th year covering the expansion draft, but this is the first time we've done it in a bar with live music. So right off the bat, Nashville SC making a big impact. They are expecting a full house here at Ole Red. There's going to be community leaders, some VIPs. Dax McCarty is in the house. His signing announced last week, a big part of this roster build that will continue here today. The Brain Trust has been working furiously, but these fans are so excited to see what decisions are going to be made right here today. Are you guys excited? Yeah! They're excited! They're so excited for soccer in Music City, Andrew.
Oh, thank you so much, Susanna. It is always happy hour when you are around. That's Adam Cunningham, finalist of the 2017 The Voice competition, laying down some tunes for the folks in Nashville as they wait for their first pick. Inter Miami, however, have the first pick in the expansion draft, and Jillian Sakovits is on hand to get a feel for what it's like down in South Beach.
We are outside Inter Miami headquarters, so you know it's Miami, so it is a party. The club had to cap tonight's events at 600 RSVPs. In addition to the supporters on hand, there's a number of the newest club signings. They'll be on hand for the entire event and doing a Q&A afterwards. As for what's going on inside, well, that's where the draft room is going to be. And while Inter Miami doesn't have a manager yet, they feel like they have the guy in building an MLS roster, and that's sporting director Paul McDonough. He was with Orlando in 2015 during their expansion, and then a big part of building Atlanta's championship roster. And that is why David Beckham brought him here. And I asked Paul, what is the plan for today? In the past expansion drafts, we've seen a lot of moving and shaking, a lot of trades. He told me, don't be surprised if you see all of these guys in an Inter Miami uniform in a few months. Now, as for who those players are going to be, that information we'll have from inside. But Paul did add, my phone is always on. Guys.
Well, it's interesting, though, to hear that maybe the selections that Inter Miami make will stay on their roster. We've seen in years past a lot of trades around the expansion draft. You saw the umbrella, they got the
Wouldn't
flags.
that be something you'd say, though, too, if you wanted to get
That's
a little
true.
bit extra?
A little bit of
in the
leverage.
Deal? When I was in LAFC a couple years ago for this, John Thornton had to leave the stage 3 times for phone calls at this point. And you saw it. I'm ready for anything to happen right now because down to the minute, I'm sure they're going to be receiving phone calls.
Absolutely. Miami have the first pick. Let's see how they got to this point. The 25th expansion club in Major League Soccer. It was stop and start at times. You know the face of this thing. That's David Beckham. Jorge Mas. The Mas brothers have been a massive addition. They've got the stadium going up in Fort Lauderdale right now. What do you think about Inter Miami and their path to Major League Soccer, Kaylin?
Well, look, there's an excitement around this team because in a lot of ways it does fit the profile of what we've seen from LAFC and Atlanta United, a big market team, star-studded ownership group, and that's going to be nice to go out into the market and make some phone calls. They've added some nice pieces already. You see Jerome Quesavetter, who I saw play for El Paso, Jay Chapman, too, with MLS experience, and Victor Ulloa, a name that I really like, a player that has a ton of MLS experience, can bridge the gap between English and Spanish in the locker room. It really does help to have some MLS experience as you're building this roster with your team.
That one young DP, too, Doyle, Matias Pellegrini. We have to mention his name. And Julian Carranza, a young player from Argentina. But here's the veteran presence on the back line.
Exactly. They went and they kind of swung big on the front line, on the back line. As Kaylin mentioned, Victor Ulloa. Grant Lillard, not exactly a veteran, but he's been in the league for a couple of years. They traded for your guy Drake Callender, the rights to your guy Drake Callender. McCoon, kind of a buy low, maybe has a high ceiling guy as well. But there are big signings to come for this club.
Absolutely. 2 DP slots left, and of course, as I said, that head coach spot. Now, Nashville SC, they have their head coach, and he's won MLS Cup. That is Gary Smith. It was a fast rise, Doyle. This team into USL, into MLS, look at he split.
Yeah, I mean, and they earned it, right? If you look at what they did on the field, if you look at what they did, filling the stands, and obviously with the ownership group, but building this club it's going to have a very different identity from what Miami is. They're bringing in guys from CONCACAF. They're bringing in guys with experience in the U.S. Rios and Lancaster are coming up from USL. We know David Akamwell. We know Randall Leal. If you've been watching Costa Rica, Hani Mukhtar is their big signing. A lot of smart folks around the league like that signing a lot. German playmaker has been in Scandinavia for a couple.
Yeah, I like him, Doyle. Dynamic, shifty, can contribute with goals. I think there is a challenge always, when you're coming from Scandinavia maybe, but I like a lot of. He really jumps off the page.
Absolutely, and some MLS experience too. Dave Romney from the Galaxy made
And
that
this
trade.
is-
Dax McCarty, Anibal Godoy from middle of the year. Derek Jones from Philly has been in the USL with them for the last 6 months or so.
And that's what jumps off the page to me. They have their core in central midfield. I don't expect them to be adding pieces there.
All right, enough of us. Let's get to what you are waiting for here, and that is the first selection in the 2019 MLS Expansion Draft. Let's head to Miami and Jillian Sakovits.
Thanks, Andrew. And for that first pick, I'm joined by Sporting Director Paul McDonough. Paul, who will be Inter Miami's first pick?
We are going to select Ben Sweat from New York City FC.
Okay, so a defender, what does he bring? What are you guys looking for?
MLS experience, help in the back, left-footed. So we're just happy to have him.
Thank you, Paul.
The starter for NYCFC in 2017 and 18 sort of lost the spot this year to Ronald Matarrita, but a player that Patrick Vieira certainly liked and was well liked enough to get into the U.S. national team as well. What do you think of this, Doyle?
It's an understandable move because left back is the hardest spot to fill, and you know he could play it at a high level for a good team, which he did for 2 straight years. I think 60-odd starts over the last couple of years. He's also a Florida guy. He grew up in Tampa, played at USF. He's not going to struggle with the climate. This is a little surprising that it takes Medina off the board.